Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
We've just lost 90% of our young audience out there. Who's Susan Lucci? I don't know why they're an old lady voice, but anyways.
And he'd be like, yeah, exactly.
You can all you want. You agree to disagree.
Disney fight.
See, two dudes talking about Disney. Oh.
So many viewers. We just lost so many. Hello, I'm Mike Butler.
And I'm Mike Field.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Podcast. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the film simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the film, or maybe don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit. If you enjoy our podcast, please feel free to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast. What's up, Mike?
Not much. We are about to enter the spy zone. That sounds cool, right?
Can I insert some 1970s funk music right there?
I will pause for that funk music. That sounded like porn music.
It's like, well, that's kind of
the same.
It's the same. We'll get into it.
Oh, we are going to be talking about the 1975 film 3 Days of the Condor, starring Robert Redford, directed by Sidney Pollack, also starring Faye Dunaway. Excuse me. Before we actually, you know what? I'm just going to go right into it. 3 Days of the Condor has a runtime of 117 minutes. It's rated R. Production budget of $7.8 million. As I said, it was released in 1975, September 24th, 1975. Opening weekend, I do not have that. Again, this is probably the third or fourth 70s film we have done.
Yep.
So those kind of records are not really well kept, I guess. So they're not really well reported.
I'm interested. We have an even older film coming up in a few weeks.
We do? I've forgotten already.
Yeah. We have a 1950s film, so I don't know.
We do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So
well, that's probably going to be nothing.
Are we going to get any information?
No, not at all. Not at all. So I have a domestic gross of 41 million and a worldwide of 41, obviously, because I don't believe it was either released internationally or maybe it just didn't do a lot of business. But that 41 million is the number that I only found at one place, and there was like three other numbers that I found. Like I found 32, I found 27.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have different numbers than I have.
So I got the 41 million off of Wikipedia. I just went with the higher number, just try to give it a little bump, I guess.
That makes more sense because I actually wrote down production budget of 20.
I had 20 million as well. I believe that's on either IMDb or IMDb Pro.
Yeah, that's on the
But
IMDb's.
on Wikipedia, the production budget is 7.8 million. I
That
thought
makes
that
more
was
sense.
too exact for it to be wrong. Like I thought 20 million was just the number they tossed out.
20 million seems too high because when
Especially for
you
the
also go on
70s.
IMDb, you also get that their take was only 27.
Yeah.
But this is supposed to be like a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
And that most people had seen.
Supposed to be. This is a pretty
Well,
good
this is the first time I had seen
I
it.
got
So
you.
when I read that, I was like, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, I agree. So I think the 7.8 is a little too exact to not be right.
Yeah.
So I went with that.
All right.
So released September 24th, as I said. The 3 days before it, on the 21st, you had Dog Day Afternoon, which is a very, very, very good movie. And then 2 days after the 24th, on the 26th, you had Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, I don't know if Rocky Horror Picture Show was a hit when it first came out. I don't believe so. As you're shaking your head.
I don't believe
It's
was.
obviously a cult hit now.
Yes.
So, but as you can tell, movies we talk about this already. Back in the 70s and probably even into the 80s, you didn't have 5 movies that opened on a Friday. You just had the movies came out and they were in the theater for a while, and that was the only movie you could go see. I mean, Jaws was out for like a full 8 months or something like that, right?
Well,
8,
yeah,
9 months,
this is before the multiplex. Star Wars in
Absolutely.
77 created the need for them.
right.
So right now we're looking at 2-screen theaters.
Well, Jaws is always considered the first blockbuster movie, right?
it's the first
Started off-
blockbuster,
right,
yeah.
right.
But Star Wars is when they decided, hey, we need multiple screens.
Correct. So let's get into some of the people behind the camera. As I said before, Sidney Pollack is the director. You may know him from such great movies as Tootsie, The Firm, Michael Clayton, Jeremiah Johnson. He also directed Out of Africa, which he won the Oscar for. Written by Lorenzo Semple Jr. And there's 2 writers here, and this is on me because I don't believe they wrote it together. I think one wrote the original, and then the other person kind of came in and rewrote it, kind of thing, or did some
I
changes.
believe Lorenzo wrote the original,
Right.
and David, because he works with Sidney, wrote the rewrite.
Okay, I believe that's correct. Lorenzo, Mr. Semple Jr.'s resume includes such films as The Parallax View, which is a very good movie, King Kong, the original King Kong, Flash Gordon, and Never Say Never Again.
I wrote Never Say Never Again as well.
Yeah, I know you did.
Gotta throw in that
I
Bond.
was like, hey, look, that's James Bond. Michael, love that.
I don't love Never Say Never Again, but I love that he wrote it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I bet you would love the fact that he was a Bond guy.
He wrote the original Kong. He wrote the 1976 Kong.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. That's what I meant. I meant because I'm thinking of the one that came out 10 years ago.
Okay,
I apologize.
What about the one that came out 15 years ago?
How old am I?
There's 4 Kongs now, man.
David File?
I was saying feel in my head, but I don't know.
That's fine. He wrote The Firm, Havana, and Sabrina. All those 3 were the Sabrina from 1995 with Harrison Ford and Greg Kinnear, which I kind of like. And I like the original too. All those movies were directed by Sidney Pollack. So obviously, as Mike said before, obviously he's somebody he's worked with.
He's got an uncredited.
He's got a couple uncredited
credit on
stuff.
Absence of Malice for Sidney Pollack as well.
Music by Dave Grusin. He you ever see Murder by Death? I don't know if we have talked about Murder by Death.
No.
It's good. It's a little problematic for today's time because it does have some kind of stereotypes going on in there because it's supposed to be a group of world detectives, but they're based upon famous literary detectives, like, and there's Columbo in there and stuff like that. But you have there's someone playing, is it not Confucius? But is basically it's a white guy playing. It's like I said, it's problematic. It's definitely problematic.
I don't think we're gonna do that.
No, I'm not saying that. I think you should still watch it because it's got a lot of good comedians in there. But I'm not sitting there endorsing any of that. He's also written "And Justice for All," and he won the Oscar for the Milagro Beanfield War, which is actually directed by Robert Redford. Cinematography by Owen Roizman. We did one of his movies, The French Connection, Tootsie, Exorcist, and Network,
and the 90s Addams Family movie.
Oh, interesting.
For those of my generation.
Interesting. As I said several times, Robert Redford is in this movie. He plays Joe Turner, or codename Condor. Do I really need to go into what Robert Redford has been in? Let's do it anyways.
I wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Correct.
And he's Robert Redford.
And The Sting, The Natural, All the President's Men.
Yep. Sneakers, Spy Game.
Yep.
I like Spy Game.
He won the Oscar for directing Ordinary People. And I believe he has an honorary one for acting, which... I mean, he probably should have got it at some point. I'm a Redford fan. Faye Dunaway plays Kathy. She is from Chinatown, another one we have done for Forgotten Cinema. Bonnie and Clyde, Mommy Dearest. She won the Oscar for Network. Cliff Robertson, who everyone knows as Uncle Ben in Spider-Man.
That's right.
But did you know that he was an Oscar Award winner for Charlie?
I did not know that.
Yes. He's also, you probably see him in Escape from L.A. Max von Sydow as Jobert. I really like Needful Things, so I always bring up Needful Things when we talk about Max von Sydow, but he's also from The Exorcist, The Seventh Seal, Minority Report, and John Houseman, Mr. Wabash, who won the Oscar for The Paper Chase. He was in The Fog, Rollerball, and you may know him from the Smith Barney commercials. Do you remember those? Okay, so there's an old guy, and he'd be talking about Smith Barney. They're going to invest your money.
Oh, okay,
blah, blah, blah. He's like, they make money the old-fashioned way. They earn it. And he like lands on that. That's how I guarantee you, people our age, that's where they know him from. They don't realize that he is an Oscar Award winner. No disrespect.
He won an Oscar for his performance in that commercial.
So before we get into our viewing notes and some other facts and a variety of things, I've been tasked with the synopsis of 3 Days of the Condor. So
before you begin,
what's going on?
Get your elbows off the table.
I'm sorry. All right. Here we go. On a seemingly ordinary day, Joe Turner, a quiet CIA codebreaker, walks into his workplace after he has gone out for a lunch run and finds that all of his coworkers have been murdered. Horrified, Joe flees the scene and tries to tell his supervisors about the tragedy. Unfortunately, he soon learns that the CIA higher-ups were involved in the murders. With no one to trust and a merciless hitman close on his tail, that is Jobert, played by Max von Sydow, Joe must somehow survive long enough to figure out why his own agency wants him dead. What's not in this synopsis is that there is a CIA within the CIA. And if that sounds vaguely familiar, that was part of the plot of the Captain America Winter Soldier, the second one, right? Which
Redford's in, where
Hydra was inside S.H.I.E.L.D. That's kind of where they got that from. It's kind of an homage or a ripoff. But
and Redford's in that too.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's what I mean. I think that's partly why Redford's in that because of that that connection. So yeah. So it's definitely a 70s spy It's definitely a spy thriller, but it's a 70s, like, I can't think of the type of, kind of like a distrust of the government kind of movie, like The Parallax View, like All the President's Men. Just, there was a series of movies that came out in the 70s after the Watergate scandal that I guess writers' reactions and directors and filmmakers' reactions were just how they view the world. A string of these conspiracy movies came out.
Right.
And I just mentioned Parallax View and All the President's Men. You had The Conversation, which we just did. Capricorn 1, Cutter's Way, Telephone, or Telephone, Winter Kills, Domino Principle, and Good Guys Wear Black. All these movies that came out in the 70s after Watergate were kind of a direct reflection of how people were feeling in terms of just kind of, I don't know, not angst, but nervousness or anxiousness about the government and how it relates to modern life at that point.
Yeah, I mean it's very similar. Also, The Star Chamber was kind of similar in terms of government can't get it done.
Right, absolutely. Which is another movie we did.
Yes.
That was season 1, right?
That was season 1.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
This is also the 7th film that Pollack and Redford have worked on together. Now I know you're not going to get any of these. I think so. Can you get at least one of them? Can you pick another? I've already mentioned some of the movies that they've done together.
I don't remember.
Yeah, exactly. So this is actually I believe it's their 4th time together, but previously they did this property is Condemned, Jeremiah Johnson, The Way We Were. It's with Barbara Streisand.
That would have been the one I named.
Then The Condor, as we said, 3 Days of the Condor, The Electric Horseman, Out of Africa, and Havana. So they've worked
I've
7
seen
times
Havana
together.
and Out of Africa.
Sidney Pollack has since passed away, I think a couple of years ago.
Yes.
He was in The Firm, I believe. He directed, but I think he was in The Firm. He acts in some of the movies as well. Not even his movies that he's directed. He's
been in stuff. Yeah.
So I actually really like Sidney Pollack as a director and as an actor.
He does seem to work with, like you said, he worked with Robert Redford a bunch. He does seem to work with his crew.
Mhm.
If you look at his crew, they're all very similar as well.
This movie was nominated for an Oscar for editing. It lost to Jaws, which makes sense.
It's Jaws.
Because everything probably lost to Jaws. So I'm curious. Obviously, we start this off usually with some kind of question, or I don't know where we go. We usually just kind of spitball it. But you had not seen this movie, and I saw you a couple of days ago. We see each other quite often, and and I said, "Hey, did you watch Condor?" You're like, "Eh," and I instantly was concerned.
I honestly, I know it was like in film class we'd never watched it, but a lot of people that are really into film talk about 3 Days of the Condor, and I guess it's a very influential spy movie. I can definitely see seeds of like, I don't know. I think the Bourne novels were written beforehand.
Okay.
But I can see how the film is very much influenced by this film.
Well, we should also say that this movie is based on a novel in and of
It
itself.
is as well. Yep.
The book is called 6 Days with the Condor, and that was written by James Grady.
Yep.
So before we
keep going, yeah. Which might have been written before Bourne. I'm not sure when the book was written, but I can see like the influences there. But it's just I wasn't as impressed as I thought I would be with the film in terms of like how it was made and stuff. I kind of enjoy the story, but I didn't enjoy.
Well, give me something specific.
So I can
attack you.
And I understand that this is of the time, and that's how you're going to attack me. But the music,
no, not at all.
The music sucks.
Okay, now
the music blows.
You're talking about the opening song?
Oh no, all the funky music. I get that it's a product of the 70s, but it really undercuts the seriousness of all the scenes when you go wow, and he's looking at his murdered friends and colleagues, or he's all sad, and you go funky jazz or sex music, and it's just constant throughout it, and that's. Half my notes are this note, really? This is what you're playing?
Well, I actually like the opening song because the opening song, when he shows up, he's late for work, and you got to meet everybody in the office, and you kind of get an idea what
that's okay.
But I think that lulls you into a sense of like, it's just a normal day.
But once the film starts, you don't need that anymore.
No, I'm talking. You're talking about once they get murdered.
Once they get murdered. See, a lot of it in the 70s, it seems, especially in like the early mid 70s, you've got your scores are funky, or you've got like French Connection, which. Very minimal score, like almost no score at all. And this movie would have done much better, I think, with almost no score at all. Put that music at the beginning. I love the record he plays at the end in the guy's house.
Oh, right.
When he's gonna get him. But I don't want the music really undercuts the seriousness of the film and undercuts a lot of the emotion that is trying to be portrayed by the actors in the scenes. Well,
I know you said that I'm going to tell you it's of the time, so I'm going to tell you that you have a time that filmmaking in the 70s was a shift between how, and it didn't start in the 70s. It obviously started in the late 60s, mid 60s,
right,
where you had new directors, new filmmakers, new composers, new people onto the scene that wanted to not make their mark, but they were doing different things. They were going against what the establishment was already doing in Hollywood.
Hey man, I get that. Fight
And
the
that's
establishment.
what you have.
But
And for good or for bad, whether it fits or it doesn't fit, maybe 3 Days of the Condor would have the soundtrack would have been better suited for a more traditional, more spy thriller type soundtrack. But they opted to do this 70s style. But also that's what audiences might have craved. That's what they're into. I get it. There is definitely a shift going on through the 10 to 15 years that this movie is dead in the middle of, where, they're just trying to, like, I don't want to say put their mark, but they're doing their thing. You know what I mean?
I get that. But I've also seen films in the mid 70s and the late 60s that do this better.
I got
that
you.
would still, even if it was funky, put the emotion in there. Put the right note in there. Put a dour note when somebody dies, and not just go into the funky wave pedal or the saxophone right away with a major note maybe instead of a minor key when it should be minor.
Well, what about this? What about a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy that uses popular music in their soundtrack primarily more than score? Does that bother you as much? Even though you like that music?
If the music doesn't fit the scene, it would bother me still. I think Guardians does a good job of putting the songs in that really fit around it. I know we poop on the Marvel movies all the time, but
we're not pooping on the Marvel movies. We're just, they're just,
we kind of bring the truth to the Marvel movies. I'd say that. But I like the Guardians movies quite a bit. I think they're kind of a step above most of the Marvel
probably a bad
films.
example because it is supposed to represent his time. I don't want to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. I want to talk about 3 Days of the Condor.
But I mean, if this movie used more popular music, maybe that would work better. Again, it's just fitting the note, fitting the key that's supposed to be there. Like at the end, when Robert Redford's character Condor is talking to Higgins and he leaves into the crowd, you've got a little bit of that note. You got a little bit of a correct beat. And then you go into the Christmas music, which I also was not a big fan of.
What, really?
I just think it was unnecessary. You didn't have a lot of decorations. It didn't fit into the film at all. It just seemed to put it in a specific time period that I think would have fit better if I didn't know when in New York it was. They're wearing coats. It's rainy. Who knows when it could be?
It's supposed to be it's supposed to be in the winter. The movie is set in the winter, but they shot it in the autumn to the point where they had to remove leaves from trees and stuff like that to make it look barren. So that's probably where you have the Christmas music coming in, but you don't see a lot of decorations kind of thing. So because you're downtown New York City, and you know what I mean, they're at by the Trade Center.
I don't really need I get wanting to look without the leaves and stuff because I think that would have added color to the gray. Which was clearly the color scheme they were going for, but I didn't need I thought the need for Christmas stuff was a little unnecessary. When it started playing, I was like,
So your biggest problem is music right now.
Right now, I think the music really detracts from it.
That's your first problem.
There's other stuff that I'm not a huge fan of in terms of like camera work and stuff. That's just a product of the 70s.
Sure,
it wasn't there yet. So I don't really.
See, I like the grittiness of the New York City. I like New York City in the 70s.
70s New York City looks great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are other things like the fact that he has to wear that trench coat with the big collar up for the rest of the time once he becomes a spy. I thought was a little too heavy-handed.
Redford?
Redford.
Which part?
After he goes to see Max von Sydow. Is it Sydow or Sydow?
Max von Sydow. I don't know.
Okay.
Whatever.
Once he goes Jobert, after he sees him the first time, and then he gets the coat from Kathy's boyfriend, husband, whoever he is.
Oh, okay.
And then he's wearing the trench coat with the collar up the rest of the time. I'm like, I get it, man. You're a cool super spy now. Okay.
Jeez, hating on this movie.
Then there are other moments where there are just like inconsistencies, which again is a product of the 70s. Maybe you didn't have people really looking at that. Like in one scene, he doesn't have gloves, then all of a sudden he's got gloves on. That's toward the beginning, I believe, when he's still pre-trench coat. He just all of a sudden has gloves. Just little things like that, which that doesn't detract from me.
But you're bringing it up.
Because it's a product of the 70s, which
what
happens.
Bad filmmaking? Sloppy filmmaking?
Sloppy filmmaking. Mistakes like that can't be fixed later on. They didn't have the time, or like once a film was more expensive back then, you could just shoot on digital. You can't go all day. The budgets weren't infinite like they are now.
Well, I also know that he was prepping in all his free time during this movie. He's actually prepping for All the President's Men. So he wasn't really like just kind of hanging around set. Like once he wasn't shooting, he was getting ready for the next movie, which was obviously, like I said, All the President's Men.
Which is a fantastic movie.
Absolutely. But I'm also going to tell you that this is a fantastic movie.
It's not that I don't like this movie. It's just that I was watching it with this. This is what happens when you get told a movie's fantastic. This is what happened. I call it the Monty Python and the Holy Grail effect. You tell someone to watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You tell them it's the funniest movie of all time. If they've never seen it before, and now they see it now after all the hype that's online, on TV, everybody talks about it, then they watch it.
Right.
They're not going to like it as much.
Let's see the how to combat
it's
that.
It's funny, but it's tough.
How to combat that, and with this movie, and I know you're not going to do this, is to watch this movie again in a month or so. Is to just watch it again. That's where I like.
If this was on TV again, I'd watch it.
I got you, but that's where you would develop an appreciation for the movie, and you would further distance yourself from the hype of everyone telling you that this movie's great. This movie's great. Like I've had that with movies where we've walked out of movies where we watched together in the theater, and I was like, yeah, it's okay, and then I'll watch it again. I'm like, I kind of like this movie a little bit more. I mean, that happened with. What did that happen with? That kind of probably happened with Baby Driver a little bit for me.
Really? I thought you liked Baby Driver.
I did like Baby Driver, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. I mean,
it wasn't on your top 10 list until now.
Right. So like that kind of thing. So,
well, that happened with one of the movies on this podcast, right?
Which one? There's so many.
It was a few weeks ago. There was one that you didn't like as much. You thought was okay that I had put on the list, and you watched it again. And you were talking about how you actually really liked it.
This was this year, this past season.
I believe so. Oh, New Jack City.
Oh, okay.
How you remember being and then this time you kind of had more of appreciation for it.
Well, but New Jack City, just like this movie, is a movie that's set in that time. So it's a product of that time that, late 80s, early 90s. I already blanking again. Late 80s for New Jack City. It takes
place in the late 80s, but it was filmed in the early 90s.
Right. So that's a movie that was representative of the filmmakers and the writers' reaction to the crack epidemic in the country back then. This movie is the same, where it's a like we talked about before, a response to the Watergate scandal and just
distrust
conspiracies
of the government,
and distrust of the government. So that's a nice correlation. Nice job. I know we're getting negative, so I'm going to tell you the one thing I didn't really I question, and that's the sex scene.
I have the same issues with the sex scene. But that's
well, so basically what happens is he kidnaps Kathy. He at random. This is Condor. He kidnaps Kathy at random. He has her take her to her apartment. He needs her basically to help him try to figure out what's going on. It's like a home base kind of thing.
Right. He needs a home base that's not connected to him at all.
Now what ends up happening is like he ties her up and whatever. They go through a serious thing, and she ends up basically, I guess, falling for him at some point.
Stockholm syndrome.
Whatever. Yeah, they have sex. I view this type of movie as a gritty spy thriller. And that's not something that would be in a gritty spy thriller. This Condor, that would be in a James Bond movie.
You mean the sudden romantic lighting that just appears out of nowhere and lights his lips like the light bulb?
We already just got through talking about it's the 70s, and you have two of the hottest, hottest by I mean popular, not oh my god they're hot, but you have two of the most popular people in. Film right now.
Redford's
Faye
like
Dunaway and Robert
Brad
Redford.
Pitt of
Right. People are there to see those two. So people are obviously there. They're not going to complain when those two are together, sexually on screen. And
fine, then I will. It's unearned and it's rapey.
Like I said, it doesn't make any sense, because if this was a James Bond movie, you would be okay with that, because that's what James Bond is known for, like ravishing the ladies, even in the time of danger. This is not that type of spy movie.
That's true, but James Bond is.
I'm not talking about James Bond now. I'm talking about James Bond then.
Even then, he could get a little like, come on, man. But he straight up's like abusing this lady, and then they have sex.
He's got to be
2 seconds after
what he says.
I get that, but then, oh man, she's just like, oh yeah, now take me. It's just so unearned.
Obviously.
At least James Bond at some point he's putting some charm on her. Robert Redford never put some charm on her.
Put some charm on you, girl.
James Bond would apologize. He would be like, listen, I'm sorry.
Oh, he would absolutely not apologize. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry.
If he kidnapped
Sean
her?
Connery as James Bond slapped a woman in one of the movies, and they're like one of the first two movies. He slapped a woman. So
it's at the beginning that they have that sour relationship, and then at the end, after he saved her, this is just like, she still has no proof he's a real CIA agent. He could still be crazy. He's forced her to sleep with him, like literally sleep with him, like take a nap.
He didn't. Well, he had to, or she was gonna. Listen,
I get that. The sex scene is ridiculous, and then the music.
I'm not agreeing. You don't like the slow close up of the park bench where you're like, yeah, park bench, because she takes a photo of a park bench and she has it on the wall. So instead of cutting away to it, as they usually do, the windows and the drapes, they just slowly zoom in on this park bench. I'm like, what's going on here?
Ooh,
park
lonely
bench
photos. She's not so
Winter
lonely
park
anymore,
bench, baby. Listen, I agree with you. It doesn't fit. But I do not agree with your idea that of this James Bond puts a little charm on it.
He has never gone this far as far as this movie takes it. Like right away, anyway.
James Bond, I don't want to argue.
Maybe if Redford had sex with her at the very end.
That doesn't make it,
everything's already happened. But it would ruin the last scene where
any kind of sex scene. It doesn't fit in the movie.
It shouldn't be there.
Right.
But I'm saying if
again,
there was.
It's in there because you have Robert Redford, you have Faye Dunaway. This is.
I'm sure they were like, we need a scene. I would wonder if it's in the book.
That's what I was going to say. It could have been in the book, and it was 6 days, not 3 days. So there's a little bit longer in the book to conceivably believe that she would be with him that way, I guess.
Did you find a reason why they decided to shorten it to 3?
I just think for the sake of the movie, to keep it shorter, right?
Gotcha.
It's 6 days. You probably end up having him just hold up for a day doing nothing, that kind of stuff like that. So to kind of keep the story moving along, to be quick and fast, and gotta go here, gotta go here, gotta here. I think that's why they have it 3 days, because he goes to Washington towards the end. Like he goes to the Atwood's house in Washington where he sees Joubert again. Now we've just gone negative the whole way.
Well, listen, you wanted me to give my opinion. I don't usually go negative.
No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I'm okay with it. Did you know that Pollack sued a Danish TV company? They aired it in pan and scan version. I don't know if people are familiar. This was shot 235, which is widescreen, which is the black bars on the screen. And when you watch it on TV, and that's not an issue, you should like that because you see everything. But when a lot of times back in the day, when they would put it on TV, a lot of people didn't have TVs. That they don't have 16:9 TVs anymore. They have flat screens, widescreen. Right? They had the box, the 4:3 format. So they would do pan and scan, which is instead of shrinking the image, they'd keep the regular aspect ratio, and they would just digitally scan the image to the part of the frame that you should see. And it looks horrible. Pan and scan sucks. I hate pan and scan. I can't remember. We first started getting laser discs, and then we'd accidentally buy the pan and scan version where we'd be like, come on, I hate pan and scan.
I used to return DVDs for being the full screen version instead of the widescreen.
Yes. Oh, it's horrible. So he sued them saying that they were damaging his work. They were like cutting, like making a mockery of it, because this was his work. This was his art.
Well, right.
He lost, but I just thought that was interesting because I was like, yeah, that's right. You should sue them. Pan and scan should go away forever.
It's mostly going away.
No, because it is. But now what they do, because they'll, even when a movie's like widescreen, they'll blow it up a little.
They'll stretch it, yeah.
And they won't pan and scan anymore. But you can tell that it's off because HBO does it a lot. And you can tell that they just don't bother to, like, you'll see people on the outside of the frame, like, but they're talking in a conversation.
Yeah.
You're like, come on, this isn't right. I hate that. I just show it in its original format. Okay, that's the end of the PSA. So I didn't have, aside from the sex scene, I really didn't have, although I will tell you this, the sex scene aside, I like it because it makes her line the next morning that much more funny.
That's my favorite line in the movie.
When so they've had sex, and the next morning he's making coffee, and he's like, I need your help again. I need you to go, whatever. He's basically got a plan. And she's like, you can always depend on me, the spy fucker. And
it's always depend on the old spy fucker.
Yeah, I know. I just thought it was funny.
You don't have to help,
Oh, no. I'll help. Can always depend on the old spy fucker.
Because then, I'm just kidding. But I was laughing. So, I mean, I thought that was, and I almost wonder if, like, she was like, I almost wonder if the conversation came up during the shoot. Like, why would I have sex with this guy? Why? Like, she's not going to complain. I know there's a comment where Faye Dunaway was like, I'm not going to complain. It's Robert Redford,
Yeah.
But there had to be a conversation while they're shooting going, like, why would I suddenly just have sex with this guy? So can I say, I wonder if that line came from that.
Or she made a joke about it off screen,
and they were like,
funny. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, yeah. Were there any other lines in the movie that you enjoyed? Because I have a couple written down.
I really like, how does he know how to do this? He reads, sir.
Oh,
he reads? He reads everything.
Yeah.
I understand.
Question was, Mr. Higgins, is he qualified with a handgun?
No handgun, sir. M1 rifle and carbine. Evidently it was sheer luck. Or else.
Yes?
Or else what, Mr. Higgins?
Miss Condor isn't the man his file says he is.
Then where did he learn evasive moves?
He reads.
What the hell does that mean?
It means, sir, that he reads everything.
I don't understand.
Yes. Very good.
I thought that's really cool. I really like his character.
Yeah.
I like that he's good at being a spy because he just reads everything. So he can just pick up on stuff.
But he's not a spy. He's not. He's an analyst.
Well,
he's
a Jack Ryan.
He has
become a spy. Yeah, he's a Jack Ryan character, which is interesting as well.
because like when they grab Higgins and they have him in the car and he's looking for the transmitter and he's like, you really do read everything. Yeah.
And I really like his job. I think his section of the CIA is really interesting and really cool to look at. Like, I'm sure they really do have that where they look for stuff in popular works.
I read it really quickly, and I don't know if this is accurate, but they didn't. But then after this, either the book or the movie came out, I believe Russia had it. The KGB started one, and then the Americans did that. So I don't. That's what I read, but that might not be right.
Nice.
But if they didn't then, they do now, which makes sense because that's how you first influence any kind of populace. Not even just in this country, but any other country. You start with the literature. You start with what they're reading and they're consuming and stuff like that.
Right.
To kind of change their mindset.
So I thought that was really cool. I mean, I like the beginning. I like the attack on his the literary association.
Well, I like how when they're gonna kill his girlfriend, they don't really tell you it's his girlfriend.
It's his girlfriend.
When Jobert goes, move away from the window, please, and she's like, I'll scream. He's like, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that he almost doesn't like that he's killing a woman.
I think it's just a job.
It's just a job, but
Yeah.
he's not a fan of it, so he turns away and he's kind of like
Yeah. I think it's just
matter of fact
what
for
he
him.
does. He gets paid to do. There's a couple of lines in here that I thought I didn't. There's one line. Well, there's two lines. Well, let me get to the first one. When Redford's talking to Higgins by the side of the water, and Higgins is saying he's talking about, oh, it's our community. He's like, community. You guys really are kind.
Come on, Higgins, who'd hire him? You don't look up Jobert in the yellow pages. That's right. It would have to be somebody in the community. Community. Intelligence field. Community. Jesus, you guys are kind to yourselves. Community.
Like, I'm wondering if that's based off of his character or if that's just Redford's political affiliations. Because obviously Redford's a Democrat or somebody who is obviously not a conservative. And he's somebody that's, he's very political outside of his work.
Right.
But I'm wondering if that line was because his character, while he works for the CIA, I never got the sense that he hated working for the CIA. He does kind of like butt heads against stuff, but he's still working. He's still doing stuff.
Well, he says that he doesn't like the fact that he has to keep secrets. I don't think he really likes it, but I think it's the only job that he can have.
I get, or he obviously likes doing it.
The job is he gets to read everything, and that's his job. So I think that's why he keeps it, but I don't think he likes working for the government necessarily.
The other line I like that he has is when he's talking to him again. He's like, what is it with you people? You think not being caught in a lie is the same thing as telling the truth. It's the same as telling the truth. Now, that line is verbatim in Michael Clayton, also directed by Sidney Pollack, but also that line has some variation in a lot of other Pollack movies, like The Firm. They have this kind of like a variation of this line. It's a really good line. So reusing it doesn't bother me at all. So I enjoy that line. And then the last line I like when he goes to the phone company and he calls them. And they're trying to track him.
Oh, yeah.
They got the oldest tracking machine known to man. And it's like, and he's like, son of a bitch, wired 50 phones. Everyone in Brooklyn is talking to each other. I thought that was great.
I like that too.
Yeah.
Major?
Got him.
Let me see that. What's he doing in Brooklyn?
Calm down.
We can get a unit.
Wait.
What's going on, Major?
Son of a bitch wired together 50 phones.
What?
Everybody in Brooklyn's talking to each other.
I like, fuck the Wall Street Journal. I was like, oh, someone doesn't like the Wall Street Journal in this movie.
Oh, right, because he's going to be holding the Wall Street
Yeah.
Journal. Yeah. I love how, I can't remember his friend's name. Is his friend named Marty? Is that the guy that they try to, so they go to meet him?
I thought it was Stan.
Was it Stan? I didn't remember the guy's
Yeah,
name.
I think it's
so
Stan.
his buddy, they want him there when they're trying to quote unquote bring Condor in, but obviously you don't know at the time that the guy who's gonna bring him in, who is his section chief, is in on the alternate CIA. The CIA was CIA.
yeah.
He's gonna kill him. I don't understand how Stan doesn't realize that he's about to get killed because the guy's setting up a garbage can. He's like off to the side.
I think Stan maybe realizes that he might be setting up Condor to get killed.
I
don't think Stan realized he's going to get killed because Stan was given a bulletproof vest.
Well, I don't think he thinks that because he's supposed to have because Condor goes to the wife's
They're gonna have dinner
apartment.
later.
They're supposed to have dinner.
Oh, I don't think he thinks it when they first go. I think once they set up the barrels, and then he kind of gets nervous because he's looking at the guy in Condor like, hey, what are you doing? But I don't think he at any point realizes his own life is really in danger. And then he gets it in the throat, which is like, oh.
But he doesn't. Whoa, run.
He gets 1970s dead.
Well, that's like.
And then the fight scene. Oh my God.
I don't mind it because I don't listen, I love John Wick, and I like watching those type of movies where it's all choreographed, and it's great. But I don't mind a fight that's not like trained or.
Oh,
it's
I
just
don't
two
mind that
guys
either.
going at it.
But I know the 70s, they love kicks. No one in real fight kicks that much unless they're trained to like ninja.
That guy does not know martial arts. That guy that did
Yeah,
that
exactly.
kick,
And then they kick, and it's like no one kicks like that. Why are you kicking? Just no.
It wasn't even just a regular kick. It was like this like roundhouse that he couldn't get over his even get over his chest. It was like, ooh, dude, no.
There's one where Redford has to duck it. He does one high kick, and I'm just like,
well, they mess up her apartment.
Punch you right in the balls right now, dude. Oh yeah, they mess up her apartment big time. Like when he just throws the umbrella, the lighting umbrella. I was like, oh man, none of these guys know how to fight. But I like that because his character is not supposed to know how to fight.
Right.
He needs to accidentally kill the assassin, basically.
Oh, of course. He wouldn't be able to do some kind of slick Bond move where he can like crack his neck or something like that. It's got to be happenstance or something like that.
I don't like that he lets him into the apartment at all.
Yeah, it's really he's so cautious and nervous about everything, and then package like it just seems so random. And he's okay with it. You know?
I mean, I get that he wants to not be suspicious and open the door. I get signing for the package.
But he should have been clued in once he realized the pen didn't work. He should have, because the guy's trying to get in the apartment. He should have known that.
Here's the other thing. I don't believe a guy like Condor ever doesn't have 3 pens in his pocket at all times.
You nerd. I'm Condor. This is my pocket protector.
Exactly. He's got a pocket protector big time.
I don't know if you got to look at Robert Redford, but he is not a nerd.
No, that was my first note. It's like when he's supposed to be on this stupid little moped with his scarf and his stupid little tweed jacket. He's driving. I said, my very first note for the movie is even looking like a doofus on that bike, Robert Redford is still cool as hell.
Oh, of course. But I believe that I could actually believe that Redford's like, I got this moped. And you mind if I just use it in the movie? Like, I can absolutely believe that. And he's really driving in traffic.
Oh, yeah.
That's not like, hey, let's set up all these cars and get on the back and we're going to attach. No, he's like, let's go. We're going to shoot this. They're really driving, which is another reason why I like watching films shot in the 70s because it's so like not controlled. And I have a little appreciation for like the set not being as everything's perfect and controlled as possible. Right, yeah. Because you get like happy accidents and stuff like that.
Well, that's why like the mistakes and stuff don't bother me as much. Like I mentioned them that they're in there because it's a product of the 70s. So I like finding those little things. But yeah, it doesn't. That's just a product of the 70s.
Even at the end when he's across the street and he's yelling to Higgins to come across the street, like those aren't extras. Yeah, that's just Redford out there.
The hell?
Yeah. Like, I mean, can you imagine like you're just walking in the city in New York and Robert Redford's running by you and you're like, what the heck is going on? And you just see the camera crew like, whatever.
Well, that's like when he runs out of the apartment building after he meets Stuart Stan's wife or whatever.
Right.
And he runs and he jumps over his truck and gets in his truck. And then Max von Sydow is behind him.
Yeah.
There's a guy walking on the sidewalk and he just looks right into the camera like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm just looking at this guy going, that's awesome. But he keeps walking. He doesn't stop. Because there's probably somebody behind the camera go,
he's perfect. Yeah, exactly. They're probably waving him on.
That's awesome.
Did you get him? Did you get him? Too late. It's too late. The shot's too good.
It's in there.
That's great. Yeah.
It's good.
It's like, it's almost like studio independent. You know what I mean? It's a big budget film. I have this note here. Let me get it. Big budget for the time, excuse me. It's produced by the Dino De Laurentiis Corporation, but it's distributed by Paramount Pictures. So it's like, it's a big time movie, big time actors.
Oh, yeah.
But yet it's got an indie feel to it. And I think that's probably why I like a lot of the 70s films so much, because it feels like something that I could have done, obviously on a lower scale, or an independent director.
Something you could do now, yes.
Right. Like they're just out there telling stories. They're not out there telling the perfect corporatized version of something. I clearly have a real problem with the machinations of the film industry at some point today.
Was it because of the article I sent you about how they're going to have an AI now check movies that they want to do?
I read somewhere that they've always had spreadsheets that do that. It's like, yeah, still, that doesn't make it better.
Yeah.
They've always had it.
And the spreadsheets at least were looked at by humans.
Film is an art form, and it needs to be, you can be a craftsman at it, but you need to understand that it's still an art form, and that's not generated from a spreadsheet or from a computer. It's generated from people with experience. God, what am I doing here?
I have another question for you.
Ooh. Yes.
Why is a British guy in charge of the CIA?
Which guy?
The guy in charge.
Houseman? Wabash?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's British.
In the movie, he definitely is British. He's doing a British accent.
Well, maybe he's trying to not do the British accent and he's failing.
Pretty sure he's
really.
He calls it the Great War, and he's got the accent, and
well,
they don't hide it. Like I just.
Well, he might have just come over from. Maybe he grew up in England. Maybe he is like an expatriate. He was born in Romania. if that helps you.
Do
at
an
all.
American accent. You're working for the
He's
CIA.
a British American Romanian actor. I guess he is British, but I mean, this is 1970, right? 1974, 1975. Okay, so he's what at this time? He's probably 80. He's 80. He's like in his late 70s. He grew up 50 years earlier, which would be in the 20s. I mean, he could have come over from Britain and became an American citizen. I mean,
I don't think they're making anybody with an accent director to the CIA.
who are they gonna? Well, it's John Houseman. You're not gonna get it. He's there because who he is.
I get it. But just watching the movie, I'm like, why is that Brit in charge of American spy agency?
Because he makes money the old-fashioned way.
I became the CIA director the old-fashioned way. I earned it.
And
Everybody stands up.
Woo, Smith Bonnet. I was interested in how they presented Higgins in terms of, you don't really get the sense that he's a friend of Condor. He doesn't know him, but then he reads up on him, and you think that he's going to help him out because he's going to discover the CIA within the CIA. But then they had that conversation after the phone tap where House was like, "Or do you want to? How do you want to see yourself in the CIA?" And instantly, he's like, "He's one of them now." And then Joubert tells him Condor goes to Atwood's house to kill him, or to just basically find out what's going on,
To get the truth out of him, right?
Right. Joubert's there, he kills him, and they make it seem like a suicide. But he tells him, "I'm not here for you anymore. I'm working for the company now. The company's hired him."
Yeah, they rehired me.
Right. So and then he proceeds to tell him that, they're going to, you don't know when it's going to happen, but they're going to find you. It's going to be a friendly face, and he's going to come out of the car door, but you're going to realize the door's still open. And, he's going to ask you to come in, and you're never going to see you again.
That whole last scene is awesome.
It would happen this way. You may be walking. Maybe the first sunny day of the spring. And a car will slow beside you. And the door will open, and someone you know, maybe even trust, will get out of the car. And he will smile, a becoming smile. But he will leave open the door of the car and offer to give you a lift.
But I never thought that Higgins was his friend. You know what I mean? I never had that, if it was Stan, when they killed him off, if it was an actual a close friend,
right? Well, I don't think at this point Condor has any more friends left in the agency.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've killed this guy, and all his 7 patriots have been killed.
Well, you have to kill him because he knows,
right? So Higgins is the last. I wouldn't say friendly face. I think Max von Sydow is just saying that he doesn't really know Condor that well. Right. So he's saying could be a friendly face, not really. He doesn't really have any friends, and Higgins is the last guy left that comes out.
Now, do you think that the CIA within the CIA is still in existence, or they've just basically, because Atwood was part of that, they killed them off, and now Higgins is just covering it up, and he's going to move up within the CIA?
I think there's still going to be the CIA. Like they said, they always play games. There's always a CIA in the CIA, is what he says. Right. So that's what I also like at the end. It's not like Condor gets the answers he was looking for, but he doesn't win. He doesn't solve the issue. It's still going to be an issue. That's like what's the line? Oh, do we have plans? Like when Robert Redford goes, "Do we have plans to invade the Middle East?" I was just screaming to the screen, "Oh, do we?"
It's always about oil.
And then it's like, how do you know they'll print it?
Yeah, no,
and it's like
they
will. They'll print it.
No, when he's like they've got it, all of it. And he's in front of the New York Times building, and then he's walking away. He's like, they've got it all, and he starts they'll print it, and then his last line's like, "How do you know?" And he's just like. And then they freeze frame.
Yeah, it's like, because the government can't go in and botch that story.
Oh, they probably got people in the time. They have relationships, and the managing editor of the New York Times probably has a relationship with someone within the State Department, and they're reached to by somebody from CIA. Lead on him. We can't have it. It happens all the time.
Your wife looked really pretty in that red sweater going to work.
Exactly.
It would be too bad if she had an accident on the way.
It happens now. It happens all the time.
Gas leaks happen in elementary schools.
Yeah.
What?
So you liked it, but you didn't. I liked it, but I don't love it as much as everyone keeps telling you to love it.
Because people tell me how. That's if somebody tells me, "Oh, it's so great, it's the greatest thing ever." My first reaction is, and I'm not a contrarian. That's not who I am. But if someone tells me it's the greatest thing ever, I do try to find things that might be not right with it. And I felt like it would make for a more interesting episode, knowing that you really liked it.
Yep.
I didn't want to make it a love fest, so I found things I didn't like about it. It's not like French Connection is amazing. I would say
French Connection is a better movie than this movie,
and I like All the President's Men. It's not like I don't like movies from the movie.
Yes,
this movie has a lot of stuff I like, and I can recognize the elements that have gone into spy movies that have taken place afterward, which I love because I do love the spy genre.
I shouldn't say better movies. Excuse me. I should say I like those more. Yes.
Yes, this is not a bad movie by any means. They're just things that could have been done better.
Well, why?
And just because it's an older film doesn't mean that we can't look at it and dissect it and say what could make it a better film or what was great about it. Like I'd say the score,
right?
Well,
you don't like? Do you mean you don't like it?
I don't like it. I do like the music, the popular music they use in it, but I don't like the score. I don't like the need for Christmas, and I don't like the relationship between Kathy and Condor. That I don't like. Like you said, they're the two big stars, so you have to have it in there. But I don't feel like it was earned.
Right. And Faye Dunaway is very attractive, and so is Robert Redford. Oh no!
See, I'm not a big Faye Dunaway guy. At times, I'm like, oh, she's pretty, and then I'm like, eh. But like
you had
I'm
you have
okay.
very good looking leading people in this
Yes.
movie. Well,
But I
how
don't
about this? Why do you think maybe this was, because we chose it for Forgotten Cinema, so why do you think this is forgotten? Just because it's 50 years old?
It's
Holy crap, is it 50 years old? It's almost 50 years old. In 4 years it'll be.
Yeah.
Anyways.
it's so
You pick 19, I know. I know, that's right.
I think it's forgotten because unlike French Connection, which, like I said, probably because of the soundtrack and stuff, the funkiness, the French Connection looks gritty. It looks old. It's great. This movie kind of is stuck in its place. It's Sidney Pollack. It's Robert Redford. But like you said, it's bookended by All the President's Men. And what came right before this? You listed something else that came right before this too.
Oh, in terms of the conspiracy? Or just in
conspiracy films or his film?
Conversation? Parallax View?
Yeah, stuff like that.
It's all over them. They're all together.
So many of this type of movie, and then he does All the President's Men right afterward, which is also reactionary to the time.
Yeah,
but it's such a classic movie, probably more than this. So same director, same cast member, kind of. It gets overshadowed. It's not like people don't know the name 3 Days of the Condor. I just think very few people have actually seen it.
I think it's part of the reason why I guess people nowadays aren't watching it, or like, I mean, if you're into filmmaking and movies and storytelling, you really should watch this movie. We always have the same conversation. If you tell me that you love film, I mean, then you need to watch movies that were back in the day, because there are some really great stuff out there.
Right.
But it's a movie that's of the time. So it's of the 70s. And then after the 70s, you have the 80s, which is just, you have these conspiracy movies that kind of go away, and you just have the, I don't want to say glitz, but the day glow surface of the 80s. Like, you know what I mean? You have fun movies. You have movies that are not too deep, and they're movies that, you know.
The 80s were the time of excess, so you get like that kind of movie.
Right.
Yeah.
You have the cocaine filled 80s.
The cocaine party movies.
And then you go into the 90s, and you kind of have more of the same. It's an extension of the 80s. You start having independent cinema, so you start having like smaller told stories, I guess. That's what starts kind of getting angst. Back into that. Yeah. But it's more about like teenage angst and just angst for just angst's sake. There's no reason why these people are just angry. They're just angry and upset about whatever. And then you have the 2000s where I think you have it's an extension of that, and it just kind of like now you've started going into, because I really think we're going to start getting back into some of these type of movies now, especially with just how a lot of younger people are more politically active. So I think you're going to start seeing that in the films.
It's possible. I think any movie about government conspiracy and stuff, like there's still movies that are kind of like this, but it's just kind of like accepted now. It's like, yep.
But you're not going to like we listed a bunch of movies that came out around the same time. You're going to have every once in a while, you're going to have a movie here or there.
Yeah.
You know, like The Post.
So you think you're going to have a bunch of movies.
But you're not going to have just like, I'm talking about like let's say there's a huge scandal that happens. You're not going to have like, unless there is something like that, you're not going to have 8 movies that are going to come out that are all based upon that, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that we have now are scandals, because even like we had The Post, we did the laundromat is on Netflix, is about the papers as well, I believe, the Panama Papers. Yeah. Stuff like that. So you have all these movies that come up here every now and again, but back then it was almost every other movie was this kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it's also in the 70s, you have a lot of movies that are anti-establishment. Dog Day Afternoon, this movie, just All the President's Men, just anti how things are always what they would be, and you know, a lot of movies that are about change and about just, like I said, a lot of movies that are about change.
Yeah, but I feel like the reaction now, the reason you don't see that very often, like now, it's like the reaction is just like, okay, like the CIA within the CIA, that was probably shocking back then. Now it's like you watch a movie with CIA, you're like, no shit.
Can you imagine if somebody doesn't know Robert Redford, they only know him from Captain America: Winter Soldier.
I believe
How
that.
sad is that?
That's like half our crew.
How sad is that?
Although a lot of people have seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance
Okay.
Kid. That's probably a lot of people have seen Butch
Okay, are
Cassidy
you
and the
talking
Sundance
general
Kid.
audiences, or you're talking filmmaking
I'm
people?
talking even general audiences probably have seen Butch
no
Cassidy.
Way. No way.
Really?
They probably don't even know the Sting. They probably don't know who Paul Newman is. I always sound like old men.
I didn't see this thing until way afterward,
What do
but
you
I've been seeing Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid forever.
16-year-old kid. I like movies. What do you think he knows Robert Redford from? Not Butch Cassidy. It's got to be Captain America.
He's probably seen it before or knows of it.
The Natural.
The Natural. The Natural
Sports
or Marvel.
movie.
I would say The Natural or Marvel.
That's unfortunate because you really should watch a lot of his movies because he's really good.
Listen, I love Spy Game.
Yep.
And in fact, I think Spy Game's on the
list. He's in a
list.
movie that he's in with Brad Pitt, who they're often compared in terms of their careers and
They look very similar.
boyish good looks, but have serious acting chops that are sometimes disregarded because of their boyish good looks.
Well, you look at him in 3 Days of the Condor and like I'm gonna quote unquote older Brad Pitt. He's only like 50, but Brad Pitt, he looks a lot like Robert Redford now. He's got that kind of distinguished face, but that strong jawline, the same kind of hair. Like they're very similar.
Whoa, Butler, put your pants back.
Listen, he's a handsome guy. They're both handsome guys. They're both like very leading men looks, which is very like classic. Like this is a leading man.
Okay,
which isn't very, which has a wide range nowadays, but back then was like that's it.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen 3 Days of the Condor, you really should. And if you have seen 3 Days of the Condor and you do not like what Mike said, feel free to email us at forgottencinemapod@gmail.com and let Mr. Butler know how wrong he is.
You know what I like the most about the movie?
That I just threw a plug in there?
That the end of, I do like that they threw a plug, but I think the end of the movie inspired the end of the Bourne.
That freeze frame?
First one. That freeze frame reminded me of like the ring ring and go to the movie.
There
Like,
you go. That's nice.
like I imagine the movie music playing at the end of
They should
3 Days of Condor.
maybe they should, when they re-release it, they should just put Bourne's face in the background, like a young Bourne, like a young kid. Like,
I think I want to join the CIA, Mom.
I heard this really cool conversation from the New York Times. It was really interesting. Wow. So, let us know what you think, if anything. Follow us on all the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. You can get us at our website at forgottencinemapodcast.com. Join us next week. We are going to be talking about Constantine. Keanu Reeves as the demon-fighting, I don't know, what is it? No, demon-fighting detective?
I think he calls himself an exorcist.
Right. Whatever. So that's what we're talking about next week. Like I said, hit us up. We take suggestions. We're happy to bump anything that we've already kind of slotted in for a audience suggestion. So please feel free. Nice job, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
I'll see you next week. Thanks a lot, guys. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.